So Oregon State, right? We'll see what they do against Sam Houston. We all, I think, tend to believe they're going to win the game, and they'll win 3 in a row. And look at that, Red Hot Bees. I think they could beat Tulsa, too. I don't think they'll beat the Cougs in Pullman.
I love how your coach, too, after the win, almost wanted to... I know he has a bit of a Cajun accent to begin with, the way he talked. It almost felt like he was doing an Orgeron impersonation on CBS. back to church. Bring a go Beavers. Like, are you just...
He does have a little bit of
Where's he from?
Oh, that's a good question, because he's coached in the Pacific Northwest for a very long time.
That's what I thought. He sounded like a Cajun, and I'm like, is this guy
I think he was at Idaho and Wazoo.
From Louisiana? Where's he from?
I think he was at Bama a little bit, so maybe he picked it up down there.
He was born in Colorado Springs. Played at Weber State in Utah.
It wasn't quite Orgeron, but I did notice, he has a little bit of that, he's trying to do the rah-rah, was out there playing really good football.
He was
the Beavers.
He was an interim defensive line coach at Florida in 2017. That's the only time he's ever been in the South.
Okay, there you go.
I got issues with this.
You got issues with Rob Akey?
I got beef with Rob Akey.
Okay,
I got beef.
Well, they're probably going to win. We asked Josh Pate yesterday. I just gave him scenarios because you're not going to ask Josh Pate about Oregon State football. They're 2-7.
No, we're not even talking about their football team right now.
Not really. There's nothing to talk about because the season's irrelevant because they need a new coach.
Yes.
But they may get a win this weekend. And one of the names that popped up, now it ended up being a fake account, but we already knew this name is in the running because he's got so many ties to the university.
Yes.
It's Paul Chryst. And, I know a lot of people really want Paul Chryst. To me, and I told you this off the air, he's a safest hire. If you go Paul Chryst, you're going safe hire. You want a guy that you think can win 6 to maybe 8 games, and you hope that does it. I still have questions of why has he not been hired in 3 seasons? I think that's a little bizarre if he's such a good coach.
Yeah, I also don't know what he's been offered. Maybe there's an OC job that he's been offered. He didn't want to do it. He's, could be Eddie from Christmas Vacation. He's holding out for a management position.
Well, and look, it's not that colleges don't hire bad coaches, but I guess I just have questions about Paul Chryst that it's not that he was bad at Wisconsin, but if he was so good, why is nobody coveted him?
I totally get it, man.
Well, we asked Josh Pate. I gave him 3 door scenarios.
Yes, you did.
I gave him the Orgeron State scenario. I gave him Paul Chryst door number 2. And then I did a mystery door 3. That's an up-and-coming guy, a coordinator, a coach at a lower level, or a school that's quote-unquote smaller than even Oregon State.
A Brennan Marion, a Brent Vegan, one of these kind of guys.
Yeah, one of those guys. So door number 3 is a little bit of a mystery box, and here's where Josh Pate went with that.
Okay, well, I just assumed that behind door 3 is the next Signetti, but 30 years younger. So I'm always going door 3. But I am very fascinated what would happen behind door 1. Door 2 doesn't do much for me, no offense. So give me 3, give me 1, give me 2 in that order. It sounds like a snap cadence.
Okay.
Ready, break.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm shocked to hear him say he'd be interested in one, but he didn't even say for the good reasons.
No, I think it's more from an entertainment. Exactly what we've said. It's going to bring some juice back to your team. If you hire Ed Orgeron, you'll get national attention and interviews, and people will be talking about Oregon State football.
I'll give you a hot take. I don't think he's had one Oregon State-related segment once on his show all year.
He would do one, yeah.
That would be one if you hired him, and that's not how you make a hire.
No.
It's we get Josh Pate to talk about us.
Because if you hire a coach that wins, he'll talk about you, and people will talk about you, and that's the ultimate end-all, be-all.
But Chryst is a little polarizing, I've noticed throughout the Oregon State fan base, and yet somebody who follows the sport closely and loves it, very dismissive of the idea of just it doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
I tend to kind of be in there as well. I don't care that a guy leaves. You are Oregon State. I don't think you live in a world where it's realistic to expect somebody to be there their whole life. So I don't want to hire out of fear. I want to hire the best coach possible. And maybe that will be Paul Chryst. But where are you at on just directionally what makes sense with them right now?
Well, it's funny because you just had the coach who wasn't going to leave and you fired him. It was very similar to when Oregon had Mark Helfrich, and he was the guy that was never going to leave for another job. He's a Southern Oregon guy. It's in his DNA. Grew up he was never taking another job. But we fired him because he wasn't very good, and that's exactly what you guys did with Trent Bray. And it took us 3 swings. Well, I guess 2. Cristobal wasn't terrible, but the Taggart thing blew up in their face after 1 year, and then it was Cristobal, and then it was Lanning. And so I tend to agree with you that you never make this decision based off of the fear of, will he leave us? Because if a coach is going to leave you, it is more than likely that he has left your program in a better spot. Now, the rules are different because guys can take players with them in the portal, and that changes the dynamic a little bit, that a coach can't just leave and then you're left with the team. Let's go hire a coach that can win with his guys. That's not the way that it works anymore. But the Paul Chryst thing I totally get. I'm just not somebody, and I try and do this with quarterbacks going to the NFL and coaching hires. Like, none of us at the end of the day have any idea. Paul Chryst might win 9 games next year as the head coach at Oregon State. For all I know, I have no clue how he's going to do, how he would harness the NIL landscape, how he would be in the portal, what kind of connections he has, what kind of staff he could put together. I have no idea. But if I were an Oregon State fan, I would tend to agree with that. I would be much more interested in taking either the swing on a guy who's going to generate buzz and attention around your program and ticket sales and kind of get some momentum going, whether that means anything on the field or not, and at Orgeron, or if I'm just thinking, you know what, X's and O's are the most important, who cares about winning the press conference and winning the headline? We need to win football games. I'm going to go hire the up-and-coming guy before I would hire Paul Chryst. Because I just think the game is a lot. If this was 2017 and you're in this scenario, I'd probably be more willing to give Chryst the benefit of the doubt. But now, just with the landscape and the NIL budgets being so important and transfer portal stuff, how does he fit into that landscape as an older guy? I don't know the answer.
Well, he's not as old, but yeah, to your point, like he's going to be 60. Like I think that's the tough thing for me to gauge is like Chryst has an established track record. His winning percentage is over 600.
It's good, yeah.
Yes. But the difference between now and when he was let go by Wisconsin and not having been a head coach since. It's not that he hasn't followed it or knows what's happening. It's just like that's a lot. That's a lot of change.
A lot has changed in 3 years.
And as confident as some Beaver fans or media might be about Paul Chryst, and very well, again, could prove to be the right hire for them at this point.
And he's a guy who, because of his age, he's probably not taking another job. I'd be surprised if he did.
That's another
I
understand
side
that.
of it, yeah.
That doesn't always mean it's a good thing.
No, it does not.
To your point, they had the lifelong guy, and he didn't work out whatsoever. But at least Chryst has had some success as a head coach, whereas Bray came in. That was his first gig, and that was a tough thing. I don't know if a no-name candidate or coach at a different school right now would be successful. I think that's tough to answer and almost impossible. But, again, you cannot be paralyzed by the unknown versus you think you know, but a guy could prove that maybe he isn't able to coach in this landscape anymore. And I think that's the tough thing is the amount of confidence people have in Chryst is by resume, and it's not by absolutely knowing within 3 years if it's gotten worse, if it's staying the same, if maybe in some ways he got better, whereas like the unknown is also scary and impossible to answer.
Yeah, and he's a guy who had multiple stints in Corvallis, so I think there's familiarity there. That's part of it.
That's the big tie with him.
He's clearly he's interested in the job.
He wanted the gig when they lost Smith.
And that would be, I've seen some Beaver fans say that. That would be my main criticism of like, if you're going to hire Paul Chryst right now, why didn't you just hire him last time?
Because he listened to the players and read Twitter.
I know. He was available.
I honestly think that's what happened.
Would Bray have stuck around as your DC? Maybe. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that was willing to or just, interested in bolting right away. Maybe he does. I don't know the answer to that, but like he was interested in the job a year and a half ago. You could have hired him.
Yeah, I think Bray at that point, though, had like been successful enough as the DC of a top 10 team that he's like, I want this or I'm going to Michigan State. Because why would I stay here to be a DC when I could be a DC in the Big Ten?
Sure. And you could have said, I got a known commodity who had just won a lot of games, was in a Rose Bowl like 3 years ago, or a guy who's never been a head coach before. I'm going to lean on the guy who's done it and knows what he's doing. Let's stabilize things a little bit instead of going into the unknown. And now you're completely into the unknown.
It's certainly interesting, man. And I everybody's going to have a differing opinion on this. I tend to just take a swing.
I tend to agree with you.
But Paul Chryst might be their safest choice in a moment where they need stability and they might need to win ASAP so they get people more invested in the program.
I'm not going to overly be critical of whatever they end up doing as long as they don't hire Rob Aki full term or Aki full term. That would be a disaster.
What if they gave it back to Mike Riley?
What the hell, dude? Why not?
Really?
Yeah. All right.
I'd have some
Wait to see Jonathan Smith if he gets turf. You want to bring him back? Like I get the emotion side of that. It's not great for Beaver fan, but I'm not. None of us know how these hires will work out. Nobody talked about Kurt Signetti when he was hired from James Madison to Indiana, so nobody ultimately has any clue. Just don't make the interim guy the head coach.
One person tweeted us, "What about Pat Fitzgerald?"
I'd be all about it, dude. Pat Fitzgerald is a great coach.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
No.
Even what's the old Cougar coach, the COVID guy?
Rolovich. He's in the running.
Hire Rolovich. I'd be fine with that. He's a great offensive mind.
We'll see where they go. Just kind of a follow-up conversation on the Oregon State coaching search.